It is the Matt Mosley Show right here on Rogue Media Network. And we got a big one planned for you today. In fact, one of the leading experts in the world of the portal, he's from 247 Sports and CBS. Chris Hummer is going to jump on with us at about 1:30. And then around 2 o'clock today, you're going to really enjoy this. The longtime friend and the new Baylor athletic director joins us. And I was really honored that he wanted his first media interview to be with the Mosley Show. And so we're really happy about that. So we're going to share that with you. And and then we got everything up on Twitter. I want to remind everybody to go sign up for the YouTube page. And thanks for bearing with us yesterday. We had Kev was getting his mic kind of going again, and then as always happens, then suddenly I start having speaker issues or something weird. But I think we kind of got it put back together. And the good news is, Kev, the interview with Doug McNamee has already taken place. So it's all ready. And boy, he gave me a lot of time today, and we covered a lot of great topics here on the Mosley Show. So and that'll happen at right around 2 o'clock today. And that's how we'll finish up the show. We'll say goodbye after that. But that's 45 minutes of that's what people I think are wanting right now, and his thought on how to handle what he's learned about Coach Aranda. He understands the fan base, the way people are feeling. So I think we were able to get into a lot of different topics, what he can do to kind of get this fan base kind of galvanized, and basically I think I asked him about. You had the relationship the local fan base had with Art Briles and Rule and Kim Mulkey, and obviously Scott. That goes without saying. But and I think Nikki's done a nice job. But there's just the football thing's not where it used to be in terms of the level of passion and buy-in and all that kind of thing. And he gets that. And so he's coming up with different ways to try to make that happen. And we'll see how all that happens. But the cool thing is, at the end of it, he basically said, I want to do more of this. He was ready to go round 2 in Waco. He wanted me, I kind of liked his setup back behind him. Had nice little tables and meeting areas and all. So we may take our act right over there to the Baylor campus. We could always get them over across the river to the river kind of, I don't know if that's really a fair way to put that. Anyway, get them over there to the Alico building and take care of our comfy confines of the old Alico building. Let me introduce to you the man who is, and he's got his Niners gear on today, even though we are getting closer to Monday's national championship game. But our man, Kevin Hall, Hoosier Hall, is returning to the fold today. He's all ready for these divisional games. And Kev, I always prefer to have my wife, in town with me, hanging out, doing our thing. But there's some kind of girls' trip / New Year's resolutions type thing that is happening. That will happen on Saturday and Sunday for her. So I find myself with an empty house, ability just to zero in. I've already kind of thought in my mind where I want to go get my snacks from, what I kind of want to focus on from a consumption, from an eating standpoint. And, and I haven't decided yet, Kev, if I want to get some friends involved, or I think I used to kind of do the thing on the back patio and get like 6 to 7 of my buddies together.
There you go.
I have found that I enjoy more just one or two. Where there's not like because if you get too many, they're over here talking about something different, and they're not focused on the game, and it kind of takes my focus away from the game. I actually want to focus in on these games. So, but Kev, welcome back, man. I'm sorry we had some issues, but we got that fixed, and then now you're ready for your 49ers. I don't know who me of some people I've known who will. You've got several different bandwagons. I would say you're most loyal to the Indianapolis Colts in that whole group.
It's a difficult time for that, though. And,
this is your NFC team,
right? All goes back to my youth, and the Colts weren't good then, and so I would watch Joe Montana and Jerry Rice do their thing, and I was like, yeah, let's go with that. So. I'm glad that my mic no longer sounds like I'm trying to call in a Niner on the at the truck stop. So
yeah. And boy, people get. I mean, like there was one dude, and I apologize because I should not block one of our loyal listeners, but he was kind of being rude about it. It was kind of like, what's the deal with the mic? And then he said something else rude, and I won't say his name. But I just last night I'd kind of had enough, and I just said, okay, I'm blocking you. But listen, I'll let him back. If you're out there and I blocked you, I will let you back. It was bugging me last night. I'm like, we know we had an issue and we're dealing with it, but you don't need to berate us on the Twitter.
I told you last week that we picked the Niners in our podcast. We do our weekly picks. That'll be out today as well. Our picks will later tonight. And Liam called the Eagles lucky. They got lucky all season. And you would have thought that somebody killed an infant the way the Eagles fans came after us for that one. But, Eagles fans.
You used that phrase the other day. Let's come up with a different one. I don't like the kill the infant. That one. Hey,
it's extreme. It's extreme.
It's too extreme for me.
All right.
For my years. To my years, I don't like that. The only thing I'll say about the big McNamee interview coming up, and I remember Chris Hummer, big time portal guy. The only thing I would say, Kev, and it was we once we got started, I probably should have addressed it at the very beginning with him, and we could have gotten this fixed. But our side by side, I look way higher. I think we probably could have gotten him, kind of his camera up a little higher or whatever. But that's okay. That's okay. It's fine. It just looks like Big Mosley kind of looking down at the athletic director from Baylor. If anything, it should be the opposite. Mosley should be lower, and the AD should be up high on his throne. So anyway, it'll be fine. The main thing is the content, and the Z-Man stepped in, and he got it done. I have to say. So by the way, I'm hearing from Chris Hummer. We're all good. Kev, he's going to be ready to go. And then I wanted to see one other thing. I was asking the Z-Man one little thing. So I love to multitask and do these things. By the way, I was in touch with Baylor's old former assistant coach, Jared Nunes, and that was strange. He just suddenly was not on the staff this year. He's been a valuable, huge member of this thing. And so anyway, he and I are going to visit and catch up and everything, but I just really want him to bounce back. And I do not know what happened. When I do know, I'll kind of clear that up, because apparently there's some, misconceptions or whatever out there, but he's a great friend and a great staff member at Baylor, and has been a huge part of Scott Drew's success. So I kind of want to, whatever the reason that he suddenly was not on the staff. And Baylor was sad about it. He stepped away, but I'll get to the bottom of that, and if whatever I can share, I will share. And so I'm gonna ask as we speak here, Kev. I'm asking Zach to send me that because I kind of need something. All right. Now, trying to see if this hardball thing's weird. I mean, John's still out there working on his contract. I mean, I don't know quite what to make of this. I mean, I think it's kind of like this DJ Lagway. It's like, okay, yesterday there was a report. I think Zenitz had it. Matt Zenitz, who is part of that whole, I think he's the On3 community. All these guys do great work. Zenitz is going to come on with us soon as well. And I've noticed, I think Zenitz and the guy we're going to have on today, Hummer, do a lot of stuff together. But yeah, I just was I was kind of it's weird that the Lagway thing still kind of waiting on the formality of that to get done. There's a report out there today that I just saw. I guess I'm moving around too much. That Darian Mensah, that quarterback they paid a ton of money to from Duke. There's fear in the land of the Dookie, the Duke Blue Devils, that Mensah may be wanting to hit the portal. Now you can go as long as you get in the portal, then you don't have to choose your new school by like today's deadline. But today is the final day that you can go in the portal. All right. Now, again, college athletics right now is built for loopholes. So I will not be shocked if other people somehow find a way to go in the portal. But today, what we're finding, Kev, and we need to kind of keep our eye on it, is like a steady stream of some final, final day of the portal activity. People are jumping. I'm seeing edge rushers. I'm seeing small schools, big schools. I saw just a little while ago, a Baylor offensive lineman, Tompkins, ended up at LSU. So, I think that's an interesting thing. And then the Florida picked up another Baylor defensive tackle, Samu, who really never did anything at Baylor. Florida has picked him up. And now the other really good news, portal news for Baylor yesterday, was that the guy who had committed to University of Tennessee, Gavin Freeman, he looks like a tremendous return guy, could be good in the slot, 81 career catches from OU and Oklahoma State. And I was looking back at some of his OU stats, and goodness gracious, this guy has speed for days, and he's decided to become a Bear. All right, so let's kind of keep that one in mind, and then I wanted to bring you up on a little bit of news that involves Cowboys, NFC East. One guy, the Cowboys were going to interview former Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon. He is scheduled to interview Sunday in Tennessee for the Titans head coaching job. So here he is. Cardinals are like, get out of here. Titans are like, come on in. We'd love to talk to you. Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, former Oklahoma State quarterback, if my memory serves correct, is interviewing today in Philly for the Eagles offensive coordinator job. Okay, this just from about 30 minutes ago from Adam Schefter. He's also he's already interviewed for the same openings, the offensive coordinator, with Tampa Bay and Detroit. All right, and then from 1 hour ago, Giants and John Harbaugh still working through the details of their contract. It's not done. Final issues aren't over money, it's over language. There's no derailment. Nothing has changed. Talks continue, and the two sides are working to get it across the finish line. Weird. The coach, Nate Schilhaus. How to say that? Schilhaus. He's interviewing with the Steelers and Raiders today, Ravens on Saturday. And then, of course, he has a game against the Bears on Sunday. Man, this thing seems like it would be a distraction. So Nate Schilhaus, he as of 4 hours ago, he was interviewing for the Browns head coaching opening. People want folks off this staff of Sean McVay. People like that Sean McVay. And and then let me tell you real quick, in case we have any more Cowboys interviews out there, I was going to get you the latest on that. Nothing new on that front. So anyway, I was enjoying reading some of the with Dante Moore staying at Oregon, how people are adjusting their mock drafts and kind of seeing how that would impact that. Now, at about 25 after, here in about 7 minutes, we'll take a break and we'll get you ready. Chris Hummer will join us from 247 and CBS Sports. And he's a national college writer and he'll do a nice job for us. And we're going to talk DJ Lagway, and we're going to hit on some major portal stories. And then at 2 o'clock today, Doug McNamee. There it is, right at the top of the deal there. Our man has it up there. Kev has the new Baylor AD, Doug McNamee, Chris Hummer, and then we're going to preview the NFL divisional preview. All right, divisional playoffs, that is. All right, I like that. I like that, Kev. You did a nice job there. Now, let's real quick, let's run through some of these divisional matchups. All right, and tomorrow, I mean, both these days are going to be so much fun. I would say I really can't pick. I was going to say the Patriots and Texans could end up playing a real defensive, rough offensive game. So I'm going to say Saturday games are of more interest to me. Ooh, I love it. Kevin has But Kevin, let's go in order though. I started to throw you off. Let's go Bills at Broncos to start. That's Saturday's first game. And there's Kevin with me. I like this, Kevin. We got all our little boxes there. Kev, I've got
this is a 1 point to the Broncos on the line.
Broncos favored by 1 in this game, basically a pick 'em. A lot of people picking the Broncos here.
It's a rematch of last year, just a different location, right? They played each other the first round, in the wild card last year. Yeah. But this is just flip locations.
Yeah. Well, I would say Bo Nix, Broncos passing game, Broncos defense, way better than last year's team. Okay, this is not even close in that regard. Bills problem. I mean, I really want to pick the Bills here because something kind of keeps nagging at me about this being Josh Allen's year. Without some of the whether it be Lamar or Mahomes, there's so many people that are sometimes in the path that are out of the path, and this feels like Josh Allen's year. Now, Kev, my issue is that wide receiver core is beat to a pulp for Buffalo. I mean, it's just, you got to kind of go down the list and go, Jang, where are you going to get this from? And yeah,
two receivers in the same week to an ACL. Like, what are the chances?
Bad. So now they got Brandon Cooks, don't they?
I believe so.
And
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks used to play for the Cowboys, used to play for the Texans. Still speed guy, but he's had to emerge in these in the last 2 weeks. He's had over about 158 yards receiving combined, and has been a great target for Allen. And I like that. Golly, though. I mean, one of those receivers is that inside receiver for them. What's his name? I used to like this kid named Shakir or something like that for the Bills. But a lot of these guys are banged up. And so it's going to come down to he's going to have to use his tight ends. And they do have a really good running game. I mean, they in fact they have let me have to look at all these teams and think about it, but I would almost call this the best running team left in the playoffs. I think James Cook is great. I think they average somewhere in the neighborhood of 160 yards a game running the ball, and this guy can flat out run. And they got a quarterback who can run, who can cause a lot of damage. The thing they're going to have to do is try not to let him take so many shots. I mean, the Bills, yeah, they survived that game, but dang, he got beat up. And so, Kev, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bills to cover, Bills to win on the road against. That's going to be an extremely hostile environment. I would think in Denver it's going to be pretty cold, although I was in Denver literally like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was like gorgeous. It was like 55, 58, sunny. So I can't just say for certain that it's going to be, bitterly cold or anything like that. It's not like the Bills would be that bothered, though, because quite frankly, the Bills play in more cold weather than the Broncos. Kev, which way you leaning here?
Yeah, I would say as detrimental as the bye has been in college football, it's not that way in the NFL. You give Sean Payton 2 weeks to prepare for this defense and all the decimation on the Bills' offensive side. I'm going to lean Broncos here.
Kevin's going Broncos, and
I also think it would be a great irony that Josh Allen still can't make it past the AFC West in one way or another.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Now, okay, we need to get to Hummer, Chris, in a second, but I'll just say this. Let me bring this one up real quick. 49ers at Seahawks. And, Kev, I've got, Seahawks by what, 7? Did I?
Yeah, 7.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I've got the 49ers covering. I'm not going to take the 49ers to win the game. I do have the 49ers to cover. I think the Seahawks find a way here. These teams just played a couple of weeks ago, and the Seahawks kind of dominated them. In fact, they held the Niners down like crazy. Now, let's remember, even in that recent game, Kittle gets hurt. Warner has been back at practice, but Kevin, I need to look today to see what they're saying about Warner.
They ruled him out.
There, he's out. Okay. I was going to say, I did not, as much as it was cool to see him running around with his window just opening up, that was too much to ask. That said, they're unbelievable at finding ways to win, whether it's their receiver having to throw the ball. Now, Juwan Jennings is really good, and I love that pass he made. I love that receiver touchdown throw that he had. I thought he was going to kill. I think it was 81. One of their receivers wasn't lining up where he was supposed to. Bourne, maybe, I don't know, whoever it was.
Bourne. Yep.
They're kind of beat up too. Seahawks just deeper. Njigba, awesome. He's incredible. He's had a great year. And Darnold, the only thing about Darnold is he's banged up too. Purdy did not play well in that last playoff game. I did not like how Purdy threw the ball. He was good when he had to be late, but I like that oblique strain to Darnold worries me a little bit. So 49ers to cover, Seattle to win this game.
Yeah,
what do you got?
This Niners team has overcome so much over the year, but to me, Kittle's like the last straw, and I don't think that Kyle Shanahan can pull a rabbit out of a hat to win that one. So I got the Seahawks in that one. I can see where you're headed with the Niners covering and the Seahawks, but I think I don't even know if the Niners can cover, honestly.
Oh, you think Seahawks could win fairly big. Okay, that's fine. All right, Chris Hummer, 247 in CBS. He's the portal god. He's next.
When Central National Bank decided to partner with Baylor women's basketball, we were hoping Coach Collin would bring that championship mindset to do whatever she has to do to take our workplace culture to the next level.
Well, these donuts are pretty good.
Guys, how we doing?
We're good, Coach.
Craig! What are you doing?
What do you mean?
You have to dunk it.
So far, I think our employees are really enjoying it.
Not everything's a basketball thing.
Did you say something, Craig?
No, ma'am.
That's what I thought.
Dude, I think she likes you.
Central National Bank, proud partner of Baylor Athletics and Baylor Women's Basketball.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. NordVPN.com. That's NordVPN.com. Welcome to Kitbag, the ultimate destination for football fans. Whether you're cheering for Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, or any other top club, for true football passion, think Kitbag. Visit kitbag.com today. That's KITBAG.com. Kitbag.
Our patented handles were launched in 2018. We continue to push the boundaries of strength training. Join us in making your training more natural and effective. Visit Engels90.com to learn more and revolutionize your workout.
We offer fast shipping, exceptional customer support, and furniture solutions that stand up to high traffic environment. Elevate your space with BizChair's vast selection of stylish, reliable, and cost-effective furniture. Visit us today at bizchair.com to transform your business.
Circulon C1 Series Clad with Scratch Defense Non-Stick. Maximize cooking, minimize cleaning. Discover the unmatched durability and elegance scratch-free, worry-free, forever.
At Tusain's, we understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Visit Tusains.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farm, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
All right, it's Mosley. And, boy, thank you to Ascension Providence and C&B, everybody who's part of this thing. We're very fortunate right now to be joined on this crazy day, final day of the portal doesn't stop, because once you go in the portal, you can still sign with teams going on for another week or two or however. But today is the final day you can go in the portal. And Chris Hummer, my friend and guy who has been doing stuff with me for years, used to come on the old radio show. Chris, welcome to the YouTube Mosley edition. It's good to have you on here, buddy.
I appreciate you having me on. Sorry the world has to see my face. Like, it was much better when it was just the radio version of it. But
these are very scholarly glasses you have on there. I think the world needed to see this. Nice big shock of hair. I think the world needed to see this. Now, today? Has it been the frantic final day of folks deciding, hey, if I'm going to do this, I need to go ahead and do this today? And has today been, sped up a little bit as far as folks going into the portal?
It's been hectic. I think most of the movement's done for the most part, but there are certain situations that we're monitoring. Like, for instance, earlier today, we reported that Duke is worried that Darian Mensah could enter the portal. He was their star quarterback for them this year. So there's a lot of schools kind of pushing guys to enter the portal to fill needs. And it's a difficult day because schools have to basically just hang on for another, what is this? Like, it's 1:30, so 10 and a half hours, at least on the Central Time Zone. That's what teams are trying to do.
Just hang on a little bit. And, the problem is for people like my alma mater, Baylor, is every time there's an opening, like if suddenly Duke is like, oh my gosh, we may lose Mensah. Well, they're going to have to go find a quarterback. And it's DJ Lagway, who everybody was so excited that had committed to Baylor and then went ahead and took a trip to Ole Miss. That has been a little bit interesting to watch. You've monitored that. I saw Matt had a report on that yesterday, and you've certainly followed DJ Lagway's career, even back from high school, Chris. Where is that in your mind with DJ Lagway? And do you think it looks still pretty promising for the Bears to go ahead and get that done?
I do, yeah. Matt and I reported yesterday that it was Baylor and DJ were working towards finishing up the signing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Baylor's in very good position for that. I think once DJ did not commit to Ole Miss on that visit, it put Baylor back kind of in the position of strength. Like, could a Miami or Tennessee come in last minute? Maybe, but I'm not expecting that as of this moment. I think Baylor's in pretty good position with DJ Lagway.
Okay, the highest paid quarterback so far, is it Sorsby, or has anybody surpassed the $5 million? I know there's probably like a 2-year deal out there that might add up to $7.5 or $8 million or something, but like, in terms of the per year, is that the highest one you believe that's out there? The one that Tech did?
Yeah, that I'm aware of. Yeah, I believe
Okay.
Brandon Sorsby is the highest paid player of the cycle, at quarterback at least. Yeah.
All right.
He was the belle of the ball, if you will, with 3 of the top 4 kind of teams that needed a quarterback going after him, and that creates a lot of leverage.
Isn't it interesting when Baylor, you knew a ton of guys were going to leave, and you honestly needed a lot of guys to leave. But I think Baylor fans will see someone like this Samu, who just went to Florida, as you guys reported, and then even Tompkins to LSU, the offensive lineman. And it's like, on one hand, when these players leave, you're like, well, they weren't really playing for Baylor anyway. And then what happens is, you see this all the time, Chris, they sign with somebody like a real top-notch SEC program or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, because they didn't do anything, obviously, at Baylor. When you see those situations, are those teams just trying to fill out their roster? And in the cases of like those 2 players, for instance, is that more just betting on the upside? At one point, these kids were highly thought of, and the thought is, let's see if we can maybe get something out of one of these players.
It's that, and I think every situation is different, right? I think every logo is a logo, right? And people get excited no matter who the player is. That's the reality. Like, LSU is going to sign like 45 players this cycle or whatever. And every LSU fan is going to get excited for every single one of them. But the reality is, like, some of these guys are just depth pieces. And that can be the case even leaving a place like Baylor. I'm not saying that's the example with Tompkins and LSU. I'm just saying that in some of these cases, like, some of the guys are depth, but some of them are like legitimate players. Who was the safety that Florida signed from Baylor? DJ Coleman, like, legitimate player for Florida, but it's not the case in every circumstance. That's the reality. So it can really vary. Sometimes teams are just kind of taking power forward bodies for depth, and other times they're legitimate contributors.
All right. Any of these players, let's stick with Baylor for a second. Anybody that kind of grabbed your attention? This Gavin Freeman was interesting because he was a really good return guy at OU. He was at OSU as well. I think 81 career catches. That seems like a nice addition, especially with Josh Cameron leaving to go to the draft and Baylor needing a return guy. It seems like Baylor certainly has made some strides. Draylon Miller from Colorado, and then the player from Kentucky, the wide receiver from Kentucky. Any of these other those players catch your attention at all that would went over to Baylor?
Yeah, I like Draylon Miller, and I think I like Hardly Gilmore. Those are big. Those are both like pretty high upside receivers. Baylor needed targets for DJ Lagway, and like that is a avenue they went, and I think they got two of the better under the radar receivers in the portal. I'm a big fan of Garrick Ponder, the linebacker from Southern Miss. I think he can really play. I think he's going to be a good addition for Baylor this year. Xavier Hardy coming over from South Carolina is a guy with some upside. You could say the same thing about like a Jaden Rowe coming over from Kansas State. I think Baylor, given the circumstances, did a really nice job kind of restocking their talent base. Like Nate Kibble coming over from Texas is another guy I think long-term could be a really nice piece. So I think Baylor did a pretty nice job.
Considering that it's easy to recruit against them right now because all you have to say is the truth, right? They have a lame duck head coach. They got a new AD who's going to be kind of monitoring this thing. And this is kind of Dave was given a additional year, and honestly, he kind of got lucky, right? I mean, there was it took a scandal for him, probably prevented him from getting fired. So it's interesting. I mean, you might have breaking news as we speak. I mean, I'm very impressed that you can type and do this at the same time. Now, Chris, let me ask you this on the front with on the Indiana front, like the Signetti and the kind of I mean, he was already putting great portal classes together before they had huge money and before Mark Cuban got involved in everything. Like what's the Signetti effect been like on the portal? Like, how many people do you already find people studying Indiana and like trying to emulate them? Has there been a big Signetti impact on how other teams are doing business?
Yes and no. I don't really know if the Indiana blueprint is repeatable. I mean, that's a once in a generation story, obviously. But I do think you have seen some schools use that blueprint in terms of a new coach coming in and taking their players with them. I feel like that used to be more taboo than it is now. But I mean, Curt Signetti, obviously, I think he took like 16 James Madison players with him to Indiana. And then they made the playoff the first year. Obviously, it's been even better this season. But you have several G5 coaches following a similar blueprint. I mean, in our neck of the woods, Big 12 country, Eric Morris has obviously taken a lot of people from North Texas and gone to Oklahoma State. I think they've signed 20 plus North Texas players this cycle, including Drew Mestamaker, who's obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Alex Golish is doing it at Auburn. He took several of his South Florida players with him there. It's happening a little bit at UCLA with Bob Chesney bringing over from James Madison some of his players. So you're seeing a decent amount of this. Whether that's going to work to a Curt Signetti level, I don't know. But I do think that is a element of the blueprint that is certainly matriculating into the rest of the sport.
How big do you think the Washington quarterback, being able to actually hold him accountable for trying to break that contract. They bring him back. It's a little bit of an awkward situation. Obviously, the coach, his wife were very upset with him and everything like that. Do you think, though, that could have an impact on – I mean, Baylor, as you remember, lost a point guard to BYU that they had signed for $1 million, and he got $3 million from BYU, and he said, "The heck with that contract. I'm out of here." And people say, well, I wouldn't blame him for taking a $3 million. But it highlighted the fact that these things don't seem to be enforceable. That Washington situation was interesting. First of all, like, what would he have – was that – you think he would have ended up at LSU if he were allowed to just go free and clear of that contract? Is that where he was headed?
I think we reported in the kind of minutes after he went in that LSU was a school to watch. And I certainly think that was a school that was going to be very much on the radar for him. I think he would have others interested as well. The 4 schools I heard were at least of interest to his camp were LSU, Miami, Alabama, and maybe it was Tennessee. I can't remember at this point. But there were 4 schools kind of on the radar for that. But I do think it was a significant moment for the sport. We've seen players get out of their contracts time and time again. I know a lot of schools nationally were celebrating the fact that he wasn't able to get out of that one, because in an era where it's kind of funny, we moved from like the early to mid 2010s where players had almost no leverage and no power at all. And I think the pendulum has swung drastically the other way, where players have so much leverage in this era. And this was a circumstance where a contract actually held up, which was, I think, celebrated by a lot of people in college athletics.
What percentage of players that go in the portal and don't get taken, and then maybe they can't go back to where they came from, their original school, because they're like, well, sorry, we've already filled your spot. How many players like this is it, like their college careers basically end with the portal? And you would think, I'm sure there are tons of sad stories along those lines and all that kind of stuff, but does that happen? Is there a significant percentage of players that go in the portal and never find a spot and then can't go back to their original schools?
I think it happens more often than people think, but I actually think it happens less often now than it used to. Maybe that'll change as roster sizes shrink, obviously. Before you were allowed to have, I think, 125, and now it's 105, including walk-ons. So there's less spots. But I think early in the portal era, a lot of the guys would just kind of end up in purgatory. I remember doing a big story on a former 4-star recruit who essentially sat out a year and worked at Dick's Sporting Goods because he couldn't find a home before eventually landing somewhere else. So that does happen, but I think it happens less frequently now, because a lot of those players, especially at Power 4 programs, like will find some place to play, be it a G5 school or an FCS school.
Yeah. I guess the Indiana effect, I mean, we are seeing like University of Texas, even Dabo's doing it differently, but they're having to look at the portal differently and approach it differently. I saw, you remember this player, he played at, is Jonte, the big offensive lineman from A&M that just transferred to Texas. Those are interesting because, like, that was a ballyhooed 5-star type guy that probably had all season and a season and a half on the A&M campus. When Jonte Porter, is that his name? In those cases, is that a kid that A&M's had a whole year to look, all that time to look at, and they just probably don't want to spend a whole lot to keep him, and so maybe they're not that upset, even though he's going to a rival? What do you think happens in those, like a case like that?
I won't lie, I'm not super familiar with the details of that particular situation, so it's hard for me to speak to it specifically. But generally, I think it can really depend. Sometimes the school wants to keep him and he wants to go. Sometimes he just gets an offer that's too high for the school to match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what it was in that specific circumstance, but it can really vary. Like, I think ideally players would not end up at their rival schools if you ask their previous schools, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes a player gets an offer they can't refuse.
Last thing I had for you, did any of the Big 12 schools, sort of non-traditional, we know Tech was going to kill it in the portal. Did U of H or someone like that exceed expectations so far in the portal in what they're bringing in, and which of the Big 12 schools seem to be funneling in a lot of money? I mean, BYU, obviously, what they've done in basketball, they've put a ton of money in there. Are we seeing that in football as well?
Yeah, I think BYU is probably edged to second in the conference in terms of spend. In football as well. It's funny you mentioned Houston. I really like Houston's transfer class. I think they've done a really nice job with it this cycle. Colorado's always going to rank high, but that's because they turn over the roster so frequently in the portal. So they have a lot of volume, but I really like Houston's class. Kansas State, I think, has quietly done a nice job, but they're having to do a lot to that roster, obviously, with a new head coach, and they lost some key pieces too. I think Utah has done a really nice job in the face of a difficult circumstance. So several Big 12 schools are doing pretty well.
Yeah. Well, that Joe Klanderman, I think that speaks highly of Baylor's new defensive coordinator, that a lot of those players were coveted. And when they got to Kansas State, I think you and I would both agree they probably weren't a lot of 4 and 5 stars. Those were those edge players, the safety, defensive tackle, so that's I think that's a feather in his hat probably. And I think Baylor did end up with a couple of the Kansas State players. Hey, Chris, I appreciate it on an extremely busy day. Jump back in the portal. We'll be watching and retweeting and doing all that we do. So, man, thanks for taking the time to be on the Mosley Show.
Absolutely, Matt. Anytime. Talk to you soon.
All right, Chris Hummer, there he goes back into the portal. Kevin, nothing. I mean, it's so funny. I've known him for several years now, and it's just interesting to watch. When the portal first started happening, and I would see people sort of become portal experts, I was like, is this big enough thing for that to be the primary focus of your job? And now, literally, these longtime Big 12, like Sam Kahn Jr. at The Athletic and a few others, that's it, man. The portal is a whole thing. I mean, now I would have trouble being the portal expert because I don't really feel like I would have a great feel for exactly where to go. Like where to find the information. But I guess I could find out, but it's just, I kind of like all these guys who do it. And Kevin, does anything scream millennial more than somebody able to do a interview and sitting there typing on their keyboard? Now, the old school Mosley, I think if I heard some typing, I would have been like, we're done. And you heard me. I thought in a very calm, diplomatic way, I kind of addressed it. But yeah, that's a different animal right there.
It reminds me of the episode of The Office where Michael went to a guest lecture, and he was asked about why or how he continues to work in paper in a paperless world, and he addressed the class. Okay, here's the deal. All real work still happens on paper. Write that down. And then you hear all the laptops. See, you were talking about earlier how you were going to consume the games on Saturday and Sunday. I pictured you sitting there with a legal pad and just taking notes.
I do that. In the past, I used to have this whole thing at the morning news, my column at the morning news, and the online column, it was like Mosley's, it was called something about like my legal pad, everything, 8.5 by 11 Mosley's legal pad. And it would just me unloading my notebook into that. And I remember it was at the time blogs were a big thing. And you could not give them enough. Like I'd be at a Cowboys, training camp practice, And I bet on one practice I would write 1,500 to 2,000 words. Just I was like a young Hummer, like a Chris Hummer, just sitting there. But oh my gosh, when I started hearing him clack away, I was probably about 2 seconds away from Chris. We'll see you. We'll see you, buddy. We'll catch you next time.
It's called multitasking.
It's called. Yes, I'm not going to say it. But again, it's an extremely busy day. It's the final day of the deal, and he was kind enough to interrupt what he was doing and coming on with us, and so I recognize that. But occasionally I'll be on a telephone with somebody, and if I hear that, and I'm trying to have what I think is an important type call, I'm about ready to bail. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. Okay. Anyway, and by the way, sometimes you can tell if you're on a call with somebody and they're like texting, while that you can kind of feel that. All right, let's pick up where we left off. I want to remind everybody, this is Doug McNamee Day. And Doug is the new athletic director at Baylor. And at about 2:05, we're just going to cut it loose because we did I had a sit down with him earlier today. I want to thank Kev and the Z-Man for helping me with that. And that was really good. Because we just hit on a lot of interesting topics about Baylor, the future of Baylor, and pretty big stuff. So anyway, we got all kinds of stuff coming in, Kev, that I'm trying to monitor as we speak, and I was just making sure I sent something properly. But yes, that's a pretty amazing. We cover like the Aranda situation, the football. How do you bring this fan base back? How do you get your donor base, like a broader, deeper donor base? How do you make that happen? Like, we tried to get kind of specific into what Baylor needed to do and moving forward. And so this is this won't be the final time we talk to Doug. But listen, Doug is a branding expert. He sold radio / ISP, IMG, all those things Baylor used to use. Now they use Playfly. So he knows a lot of different sides of the business. And he's also a huge Baylor guy. So I think you're going to enjoy all the things we're able to hit with you. And again, we'll do that starting, just here in about 10 minutes. And anxious to share that with you as Doug McNamee, Baylor Athletic Director, joins us. Okay, Kev, let's start off where we left off. Let's real quick do Texans at Patriots. Yeah.
So ready? I heard it said this way. So that Houston defense is what it is, right? And but one of the greatest weaknesses is against quarterback scrambles, and so Drake May needs to be Drake May and use his legs across the middle and in scrambles. And I think that the Patriots could see success. I think that unlike last game with the Patriots, a low-scoring affair does not necessarily favor them. I think that favors the more defensive team, although there's always been something about Vrabel as a coach. He can do more with less than just about any other coach in the NFL. Let's see. The line is Patriots. They're giving them home field with 3. Giving them 3.
Yeah.
I think Houston's going to win this one.
Wow. I mean, you are trying to tell me that you have the Houston Texans going to the AFC Championship game?
Something they've never done before, but the Patriots' schedule was weak. I think that they get exposed. Now, as a Colts fan,
Matters.
I do not like this at all, but I have to do.
Let me tell you why I disagree, and I think the Patriots win this game, and the Patriots cover. I watched C.J. Stroud in that last playoff game.
Yep.
And he fumbled 5 times. And the recipe, the game plan is there. You affect the quarterback. You hit him. He does not take care of the ball. He makes poor decisions when they're down in the red zone. And I love, on one hand, you should say, well, Stroud's a little bit more experienced than May. And I think that would be accurate. Okay. He's at least been, in the playoffs, right? Is Stroud playing playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
all 3 years.
So that part I get, but give me the home field and give me. I think the experience doesn't surpass the extreme talent that May has. I think right now the way these two quarterbacks are playing, I think May is at a much higher level. That said, it's not like May and the Patriots went out in that last game and just went crazy and put up a bunch of points. I mean, they won the game 16-3, didn't they?
Right.
Or did they put one more touchdown at the end of the game? It was a low-scoring affair. So I don't know who it favors because they both could win a low-scoring affair. I may tend to agree with you and maybe go the Texans. It's hard to argue right now with DeMeco Ryans. I think this is think about this. This is two dudes who were beloved by their respective fan bases and are doing it in their home places. And Mayo, the guy they tried to do it with, wasn't ready. And I think Kraft felt horrible about having to fire him, but he went and he got a serious head coach in Vrabel, and Ryans has become a very serious head coach. 2 linebackers, 2 hard-nosed, furious dudes going at this will be fun. All right, Rams at Chargers.
Nope, the Bears.
I mean, at Chicago. I'm sorry. I saw the C, and we lost the Chargers sadly from the playoffs. And when Herbert just got beat to a pulp. Rams at Bears. All right. Okay. How much are the Rams favored by?
Let's see. It is 3.5.
All right, Rams by 3.5. I love the job Ben Johnson has done, and I love that atmosphere there. And I generally don't like the team that's used to the nice weather and the friendly confines of an indoor place. I think it's an indoor-outdoor type venue. But I don't love them going to the cold weather, crazy environment. This is Stafford. This is someone who has way more playoff experience and then great winning experience over Caleb Williams in Chicago. I hate that I can't trust Ben Johnson here. Love the job he's done. But give me the Rams to cover. Give me the Rams to win. And Rams win at Chicago, and they keep moving on.
So have you heard that the Bears may become the Northwestern Indiana Bears?
Oh, is that where the new stadium could be?
Yeah, the Indiana legislature is putting in, basically they front the cost of the stadium and the Bears pay it back with no interest, and then once the Bears pay it off, it's all theirs to do and for revenue. So, Gary hasn't had anything since Michael Jackson left, so they need something.
How far is that from Chicago?
That it's right around the lake on the other side, so it's still considered part of the Chicagoland area. I mean, they were talking about going way out west by their practice facility. this is just as close, just the other direction, and it's way cheaper in Indiana than it is in Chicago.
I hate it though, because Soldier Field and all of that right there. I mean, there's such great.
You've been there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It is a terrible place to try to park and walk. It's a terrible fan experience, especially as it gets colder throughout the winter. So it needs to change. I get the history.
I mean, Chicago and Green Bay and all these places that still play outdoors. It's a Kansas City at Arrowhead. They're going to screw their thing up too by going to Kansas. They're giving what they'll be giving up is a tremendous advantage. And boy, Soldier Field is a storied place, and so I hate to see it end. I wish they could do what the Lambeau did something awesome. Love what they were able to accomplish with what they did to that place. Okay, Kev, without further ado,
yes,
it is time, and we'll take a quick break here. Is that what you want to do, Kev? And
sure, let's do that.
Okay, take a quick break, and then we will come back, and it will be my interview with Baylor Athletic Director of Athletics, Vice President, Director of Intercollegiate Athletics. That is Doug McNamee on every topic you can imagine. I think you're going to really enjoy it. That is next.
If you want the best for your body, you want Ascension Providence, the largest sports and orthopedics group in Central Texas. Using innovative and cutting-edge technology, we're able to understand your body better than ever, delivering treatment with precision. And with our fellowship-trained and board-certified doctors, you'll receive excellent care. Work with a team dedicated to your health, wellness, and safety.
So you can perform.
At your best.
Ascension Providence, caring for Texas families for over 120 years.
It's time to start something new at Allen Samuels. Drive in with huge savings on all of our Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. From a trail-conquering Jeep Grand Cherokee, towing in style with a Ram Heavy Duty, or cruising the city in a sporty and luxurious Ram 1500, we've got the perfect ride for you. Stop by Allen Samuels in Waco, where we make car buying easy.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Ready for a better kind of primary care?
At Patient First Direct Primary Care, you get unlimited office visits with same-day or next-day availability.
And instead of rushed appointments, we take the time to actually listen.
There are no insurance hassles, just clear, simple care.
You can reach us by phone or text because access shouldn't be complicated. Our practice has expanded to include Medicare-age patients as part of our direct primary care model.
It's a fresh alternative to the traditional insurance or government-driven systems, care that finally puts you first.
For more information, go to patientfirstdirect.com.
It's time to start something new at Allen Samuels. Drive in with huge savings on all of our Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. From a trail-conquering Jeep Grand Cherokee, towing in style with a Ram Heavy Duty, or cruising the city in a sporty and luxurious Ram 1500, we've got the perfect ride for you. Stop by Allen Samuels in Waco, where we make car buying easy.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Everybody at Equalife really has a passion and a real interest in helping people feel well. How much further can we go to get you feeling even better? It is a complete partnership between the two of us.
What if you could clean clean? With bio-based formulas and deep cleaning enzymes. No dyes, phthalates, or mystery ingredients. Just powerful pods for your dishes and laundry. Now you can, with drops made clean, made to clean.
It's not just a glove, it's a 44 Pro. Crafted with dedication, made for performance, and built to last. Get your custom glove today at 44pro.com and experience the 44 Pro difference. That's 44pro.com, 44 Pro.
It doesn't matter if your investment budget is small or big. All you need is Benzinga Pro and its powerful news alerts, price tracking, and portfolio monitoring. Subscribe now, and we'll skyrocket your portfolio today.
I am obsessed with helping business owners increase their traffic and turn it into profit through the power of Pinterest marketing. It's this amazing platform where people are looking for ideas, inspiration. They have a problem and they're actively looking for a solution.
It's hard to find supplements that work. No, thank you. Plant-based supplements made from the Earth's most powerful plants for your immune health, gut health, workouts, and more. Find out more at auraorganic.com.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. NordVPN.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
All right, it is the Matt Mosley Show. And, man, I've been waiting on this one. Doug McNamee, Vice President and Director of Athletics, Intercollegiate Athletics at Baylor. Doug, I want to welcome you back officially. And I assume this is the high point so far, appearing on this show. Would that be the high point of, I mean, I know there have been some highs already, but where does this rank, would you say?
It's up there. I will say it's probably the only interview that I'll give to a guy who's sending big checks to Texas A&M. So just want to go ahead and put that disclaimer out there that's going to be the one time circumstance.
Yeah. Well, you have little ones, and they're not so little because I actually saw them at the intro, and it won't be that long, and these kids have a mind of their own. So certainly we lost one there, but
very cool.
She still loves Baylor. I'll say that. Awesome. She's always asking me, when can I come to a game? In fact, one of her best buddies from her church youth group is on the Baylor basketball team, Drew Perry. So, yes, awesome. we go to church with them.
Awesome.
Does it still feel a bit surreal, or sort of have the realities kicked in? It was interesting because we had all that. The announcement, it was a big day. A lot of people were there. And I think in our minds, it's just, okay, Doug's going to hit the ground running. And you had to kind of like finish up your other gig and do the whole thing. What's that experience been like? And like, what these, has it been a whirlwind? And I mean, are you just sort of scheduled all day? What are these first days been like?
Yes, to all the above. I would say the biggest challenge for me has just been truly like hours in the day, and trying to get as much done as I possibly can, and also being respectful that it's probably no longer appropriate at midnight to call donors or reach out to other folks that have hopefully shut their phone down and gone to sleep. But it still feels surreal. I would say, that even the challenging aspects of the job, I'm excited to get the chance to go do. And I mean that in terms of even in the journey, the 6 weeks thus far that I've been in the mix, or I guess it's 5. You look at the schedule that normally would be not something I'm super looking forward to. In this moment, in this phase of my life, I'm embracing those moments and excited to get to do them. And I think as far as the timing is concerned, I was announced on the 8th, but you're working before then to reach out to people and to make contact. And really, even though I had to segue out of my old role, I was full speed, almost immediately in terms of trying to get to as many people as I could to try to soak up as much information as possible, because the timing of it has certainly required that. I mean, the portal in football opened on the 2nd. We're in the middle of basketball season. There's a lot of things going throughout the athletic calendar year, but it certainly feels like it's a peak time right now, and it's demanded a lot of attention. But I would say every part of it's been fun. The only challenge for me is finding the hours in the day to get to all the stuff that I want to do.
Now, have you brought in a team of designers, decorators to work on the office? You've got the beautiful BU behind you. Right. The chairs look really, really nice behind you. It looks, I'd like to come in there and maybe have a meeting or two. But have you had any time to put anything up, or is that going to come later?
Yeah, that's later. I mean, I got some pictures that are in locations that need to go up on the wall, but they're not on the wall. It's pretty minimalist in here right now, which is, I think, hopefully the way it sits long term. But that's on the list of maybe once basketball season and portal season wrap, maybe there's some time in June or May we can knock that out.
Yeah. I would go some old school, like Mike Singletary type stuff, maybe some throwback. Now, Doug, do you, the portal, how do you, I kind of always wondered about, we experience it through the media and it's just this constant, and you're on Twitter. I like your Twitter presence. You jumped right in there. I would say the previous AD did not spend a lot of time. Not that you spend a ton of time on there, but I would think probably you believe that social media, some of that is important to get out there. But from a portal standpoint, how do you take that in? And like, are you getting updates from the coaches throughout the day, or are you almost a little bit like us in the respect of like you follow all the On3 and 247 and you just see the steady, or Grayson Grunhafer does a really nice job for Siegmund. How do you experience that? Right? And do you ride the fans right now are doing the roller coaster? It's like, wait, why is DJ going to, what's he doing going to Ole Miss? All that kind of stuff. How do you experience that?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of in the middle. I mean, I don't want the play-by-play update at the level of detail where there's, 200 updates per day in terms of all the different ongoings, but I definitely keep a close pulse, whether that be through Dave or any of the assistants, or Aaron Hunt or Javon, just to see where we're at. And I would say, this is a 14-day window, but it there's a lot of action going on. The volume is significant. This is the previous world, I would say, of high school recruiting was this elongated 3 to 4 year journey that all culminated in that signing day. And I'd say, now the portal has become really what that was before and compressed in this 14-day period. We've got people taking visits. You now have agents involved. So there's additional levels of conversation, whereas before you might have just been exclusively talking with the athlete and parents. Now you've got athletes, parents, and athletes, parents. You've got agents. And so the volume over there is massive, and the amount of visits and just the interactions is significant. And it's an up and down journey. I think there's moments, it's kind of like a game where you think you're down, you got work to do, and then you get a good piece of news and you pop back up. And it has a roller coaster approach to it. I certainly think from a fan's perspective, the drip of information has to be maddening at times, especially when you don't know what the status of those players are, maybe what their health status is, what the negotiations are behind the scenes as it relates to the rev share component of the deal. There's a lot that's happening, and I think from a fan's perspective, it's great that they care and they're passionate because they want to know what that team looks like in the coming years. But it has definitely become a roller coaster 14 days, and we're obviously at the end of it today with the portal closing.
Some of the players are, they were hoping would come from Kansas State with Joe Klanderman, and I've had Joe on. He was a lot of fun to visit with, but this is a unique situation because you're inheriting kind of a tough situation. You said it yourself. You experience things as a fan. How do you have to kind of represent the Baylor fan base in some sense of understanding their frustration level while also being supportive and trying to give your coaches, everything you can give them to be successful. I would imagine that's kind of an interesting line to walk a little bit, but it's not hard for you, knowing your personality, to go in there and be kind and be supportive of Dave. I'm curious, like, what's different about Dave than maybe you had in your mind as you were maybe watching a little bit more from afar than you had, obviously it's been 8 years since you were in that building. And so you were kind of watching Dave, like I heard you talking about the other day, and probably left the stadium angry a few times after games, like a lot of fans. How is there anything different about him than maybe you had kind of formed an opinion in your mind? And like, what have those interactions been like with him? Yeah,
I'll hit on that. Let me respond to your question is about Joe real quick, and I'll get to Dave. But you talk about Joe. We've got some guys that he has previously coached that are coming our way. We're really excited about. And I'd say for him, there's a lot of guys from that Kansas State team that are going elsewhere to some big schools with a lot of attention. And I just want to give credit because he's the guy that coached those guys up. Those weren't 5-star type players coming out of high school. And Joe really deserves a lot of credit for coaching those guys up and getting to the point where they were sought after by a lot of schools. And so really, really excited about him. And I didn't want to let that pass without mentioning kind of the optimism we have with our defense and with Joe's oversight. As far as Dave is concerned, I would tell you my first impressions, a very calculated, deliberate, highly intelligent, very compassionate individual. And I think that I would also say with Dave, it's clear in my mind that he understands the urgency that exists. Nobody is putting more pressure on Dave than Dave's putting on himself. He knows what we need to do and where we need to go. And I would just tell you, and I don't have much to compare to, as you mentioned. I didn't know him personally, prior to for a month ago. But I sense with Dave an optimism, a levity, I'd say a freeness, which has me encouraged just in terms of how he looks this season and the decisions he's making. I think he's making some hard decisions that were necessary, maybe to some degree overdue. I think in terms of hiring Joe, it's a perfect example of going out and getting somebody really, really talented to offload and delegate the defense to. Retain some coaches. There was some coaches that had opportunities to leave for bigger jobs and wasn't something we were able to highly publicize, but there were big wins for us on some of the existing coaches. And I think his way he's handled the portal to prepare for the portal, for decisions that have been made to get us ready for the portal, to give us a chance to be successful, has me optimistic. I ultimately we'll find out this fall if we've made the changes necessary to get us to where we expect to be. And that's where the proof will be. Portal season, nobody's getting wins and losses assigned to their record for the portal season. Ultimately will play itself out come August and September into the rest of the fall. But I think he's made the hard decisions that he's needed to do and that he self-admits was probably overdue to give us the best chance to be most successful. And I would just say there's momentum and there's optimism in that program that I get the sense hasn't been there as much of late.
You were on that committee that helped hire Matt Rule. Yeah. You were around for Art Briles era, and you know how much fun and how unbelievable some of that success was. I have had moments where I've thought, who do I compare Signetti to?
Yeah.
And when you think about what Baylor started doing when y'all brought Art in, it was very Signetti-like. They go about things in a different way, but it was kind of an amazing thing. What I'm wondering is there any you saw how Art and Kim, to another extent, like had this huge connection with like the local fan base, not just us.
Yeah.
I mean, other people got way involved.
Yeah.
Like that would be helpful. I think it's happened with Scott. I think Nikki's really good at that stuff, and it's just going to take time because nobody really wants to follow a legend, and that's what she ended up doing. Dave made an interesting comment. Somebody said, well, can you change? Because his demeanor is so quiet and introspective. And again, I've covered people like Wade Phillips is like, Wade needs to change. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like you can't change who you are because then it kind of comes across as fake. So I guess I'm just wondering like how, and maybe not just Dave, maybe it's others, coaches as well. Like what can they do, do you think, to other than win, to sort of grab that attention of the local fan base and get some of that going again? Because some of that's been lost.
For sure. I think as you think about the teams and the coaches that have been most successful here, I really think they're coaches that have clear identity within their program and exactly what you're getting. And that it both leads from the style of the play on the field, but just the general vibe and feel around the program. And I think those are the coaches that we found ourselves to be most successful here. And I think, one of the discussions I've had with Dave, and he's in full agreement, is especially over the last 12 months, and I would say it goes further than that, but I think our program is in need of a more clear identity to know what we're about. Specifically, what is the DNA of the team, and what are we going to be synonymous with when it comes to our style of play, and what we want to be reflective of is kind of the perception from a team's perspective. And I think that's something that I would say specifically last year that was a little bit of a moving target and probably not as well known. And I want us to have clear identity for who we are as a team. And I think that was something that Dave had the same perspective of as well too. And so I don't want to speak for him as far as what 26 football team will look like, but I would say that there's definitely an expectation for our program to be synonymous with a vibe and a feel. And I think that's where we've seen success with our other sports and coaches specifically in the past. As far as outreach and the connectivity with the Waco community, I think you're accurate. I mean, you spoke about some coaches who were exceptionally talented and relatable to our fans. And I think that goes a long way. I think it's certainly impactful from off the field needs, whether it be fundraising, whether it be, in this new era of NIL, making your program more accessible, humanizing the coaches and the players, I think is a critical skill moving forward. And I would say, I think you're going to see some steps from Dave to do that. Accessibility from a media perspective, not only to him, but I think our assistants and players is something that we've talked about that I believe will be helpful for us and helpful for Dave. Dave's got a personality, and to say, hey, we're gonna try to force a person to change his personality. I think at the end of the day, our fans are going to be most appreciative of us winning football games. And I'd also say this, as it relates to Dave's personality, what I like to remind folks is that stoic nature at the end of the U of H game, where as a fan, I can say this, I wasn't an administrator at the time. I might have had a little bit of opinions as far as a couple of the calls at that point that were went one way that I probably reacted in a little bit more demonstrative way than maybe Dave did on the sidelines, and I think most of our fans did. Dave was the same guy in that game as he was, if you'll remember that epic moment where McVay made the amazing goal line stand at Oklahoma State, and there's all these images of Dave just being stoic in that moment. At that moment, we loved him. We were like, and this guy has, he's got ice in his veins, and
yes,
we love that vibe, and so we embraced it. What's the variable here? We were winning in that moment, and now we see him and we think this guy doesn't care, or this guy is not fired up. And I promise you, he's not. He is churning inside and wants to win and putting more pressure on himself and knows the importance of outcomes. Nobody can question that, and I can attest to that in my brief interaction with him. He understands that, but that's the same guy, and I think we just have to understand that expecting him to be, a super emotional, demonstrative person on the side, that's not his vibe and his style. And he's been successful before not doing that. That's certainly not an objective from my perspective, is to try to dictate a personality. I want to make sure that he has command of his program. He understands what expectations are. He builds a good roster, and he effectively coaches up his team. That's what I think we've got to measure success by.
Isn't it interesting, even sort of out of that context a little bit, that like a guy like Siegmund is almost changed the entire way, and I'm sure administrators feel this too. Like there used to be a thought, get the young up and comer, let's get somebody in their 40s, almost like hiring a pastor, right? We need this guy to grow with the church and all that, to use some of our Baylor stuff.
Sure.
But Siegmund, they hire him from James Madison, and when they made that hire, there's nobody. I mean, I'm sure maybe some insiders thought, well, that guy's been a good coach or something, but for the most part, nobody had a clue, and it was just another guy that's going to lose at Indiana like they have for the last 50 years. And it turns out he's amazing. So I would think, again, you got to kind of, you look around and see what's out there, but don't you feel like, with not just you as an athletic director, but others around the country, it's almost that one situation? And I'm sure there's others, guys that are having success like into their 60s and all. I mean, Whittingham gets hired at Michigan after he steps down from Utah. It's just interesting to see that trend. It's like people are gaining appreciation. Like it's okay to have an older dude if they're experienced and great coaches.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, people are going to study Indiana as a case study for a long time. I mean, anybody that's not looking in and analyzing how they built the roster, how they make decisions, what role do each person on the staff and their front office take. They're getting behind because they've clearly set an incredible standard that everybody's going to start chasing. And it's, I would say, really encouraging for the schools that aren't in an unlimited resources capacity, because obviously Indiana, it doesn't necessarily fit that bill, and they weren't operating with the biggest, rev share allocation or NIL funds of any school, certainly not the Big Ten, much less nationwide. And they found incredible success, and not just success as if they're getting last second play to go their way. I mean, they're dominating teams, and so I think that they're gonna disrupt the way that people look at things in a significant way, and we need to study it and watch it and understand it closely. And I think you're right, like the young up and comer, vibrant coach that has the appeal. Signetti wasn't that guy. I mean, he was a guy that just was a journeyman. Was successful, but he paid his dues, and probably a lot of people would have initially said, "I don't know if this guy's too young too old to give the reins of the program to." And clearly, the success has spoken for itself. So, I think you got to pay attention to that and figure out what to do. There's probably going to be a little bit of an overreaction, as there often is, where people try to go and fully replicate what they're doing, and I think that in itself can be problematic because they clearly got a lot of factors at play that probably can't be replicated, but there are lessons to be learned from that case study that certainly I'm watching. I know the rest of the industry is watching as well too.
And now they have Mark Cuban becoming more visible, and so you have this great way that he's constructed a roster, right. And now they're going to throw some money at it as well. Speaking of that, do we have a Mark Cuban? No. How do you grow a deeper base of donors? And, what's that been like? Because it's like, I bet they're excited to see you. And if they don't know you, a lot of them probably know you from before. So these are fun conversations because you're kind of, and some of them you probably kept in touch with over the years. But like, I remember it was like every AD kind of has his, okay, these are my people. And then I do feel like some old guard folks maybe felt like, well, they don't come to us anymore. How have you kind of addressed that in kind of what's your strategy been for trying to get that deeper? Because when I hear people say, we don't have the money, we can't compete with Tech. I mean, maybe not right now, maybe like in the portal, not going to compete with them. We're not going to have 20 to 25 million to spend in the portal. But I sort of push back on this idea of like, oh, we don't have enough donors or we don't have enough money. I always, and you hear about these same people, and like, there are people out there that have done like unbelievably well that really haven't been approached or haven't been involved. How are you trying to maybe build that deeper donor base?
Yeah, well, first of all, we have the constituency and the support necessary to be successful. What we don't have, and what we've got to do a better job, is unifying that community and getting everybody back in the boat, rowing in the same direction. So to make an assessment and say, hey, is there the resources at our disposal to be successful? I don't think that's up for debate. I 100% believe that we've got everything that we need to be successful and more. And I think, again, you look at a school like Indiana as a perfect example of that. As far as my particular approach, I think that's been, I don't want to say the easy part, because there's certainly, it's relationships, and if you care about people, you're intentional about it and you're deliberate. But getting to pick up the phone, and oftentimes I'm driving in between a meeting, I've got 10 minutes in the car, and I've got a list of, I got to give this person a call and just check in, and for me, these calls are, thank you for what you've done for our university, because there's so much that has been accomplished here. But I have no doubt that community, our Baylor family as a whole, will unify and will galvanize and put us in a position to be successful. I do think we've got to acknowledge some of the realities that were on the that preceded NIL and this new era of college athletics. One, we went through a pretty significant amount of building and capital projects. You think about, we're not much more than 10 years removed from McLean opening and the track facility opening, but Foster opened, Fudge opened as a athletic department, and credit to previous leadership and credit to our donor community and our university leadership for committing. But a lot of money has been raised here over the last few years, and specifically right prior to this new era of NIL. And I also think that there's reality that as we walked up on that edge, we had been fortunate with some success in sports. If you think about national championships on both sides, just prior to this new era, our football team had experienced multiple Big 12 championships and New Year's Day bowls. And so we hadn't been through, I would say, a long window of a lack of success. And I do think some of our peer institutions had probably experienced a longer period of disappointment and had maybe not experienced the level of capital projects. So there wasn't as much donor fatigue. And so those two factors, I think, set them up really well to be a highly motivated and I would say ready fan base to get after it and really attack this new era of college athletics. And I don't want to put the blame externally. We were behind. We've got to. I think that's been admitted before in terms of our mobilization to get after it, and to get the external side of the equation to where it needs to be. But I do think it is important to take a little bit of a historic look to see where we were, and now that we are at where we're at, I will tell you, I clearly think that the resources to go achieve the level of success are available. We got to go earn that trust, and we've got to go tell the story and give people a reason to jump in and support the cause. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, that's my job. My job is to shape and provide a story and explain the need and give people needs to go jump in and be supportive to help us accomplish our collective goals.
All right. And the morale of the your group that you go in there, and I've read that it was really kind of down, and I'm sure all the stuff that happened with Mac and just the uncertainty. And I mean, I think, the fan base obviously felt one way about it, the people that are inside the building. So I would think in the early days, you had to do some things in the terms of calming some things down. What have you done? What have you kind of seen from your staff? And again, I guess you're also sort of in an evaluation phase, because, you may want to bring other folks in, but how is that going?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I think you have to acknowledge this place has been through a lot. All of it. Our fans, our coaches, our staff, and our university. It's been a hard few months for sure. And I, as a fan, I can tell you I have a perspective, but these people that live it and call it their job every day, like, there's another layer of emotion associated with it. And so, I think the first thing I needed to do is to understand it and to acknowledge it and learn from it and make a commitment to help position our department moving forward to avoid and to learn from previous challenges and use those as opportunities moving forward. And so all that is true. As far as, the team that we have here, I think there's some great parts that are difference makers in the world of college athletics. I think we've got to add to it. I think there are additional needs that we're actively pursuing to build out the infrastructure to get us to a point where we can be successful. So I would say there's optimism by the group that I'm inheriting, and optimism from me of that group, but there's also a pretty clear understanding that there are skill sets and there are roles that we need to add, and that's part of the current process for what I'm spending most of my time on.
Are you content right now with the way football is set up, with the more and more teams going to NFL models, even getting people with NFL backgrounds? Some GMs at places have quite a bit of authority, and I mean, you kind of get into, okay, who's reporting to who? Right. Are you still just in evaluation phase? Yeah. Or is that an area you feel like, hey, maybe we need to update some things?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you look at the college athletics as a whole, the titling as far as the GM role that's being used is I don't think it's reflective of what historically has been the way it's been done in professional sports. The individuals on our staff that have that title really like those guys. I think there's a lot of talent there, whether that be in the sport level or David Kay serves in that capacity more from an administrative standpoint. But as far as the prototypical GM structure that is, I think, seen within the pro sports model, I just don't think that's common in college sports today. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be, but I would say even those people that have that title, as you assess that in comparison to more of the GM role in pro sports, those people are really making some final calls as it relates to players. A lot of times in the GM capacity, they're building the team, and the coach has, he has some speak-in capacity. Certainly one speaks to the style of which they play. A lot of times in pro sports, the coach just gets the team handed to them and they go coach. They're speaking into it. They're talking about people that they fit their model, but the GM's really building the team. And I don't think that's the common practice in the college space right now. I think the coach, in most every case, has got the final speak into that. And I think Signetti's a perfect example of that. Based on what I've understood and read, he's the GM. He's making the final decision as it relates to the player. I think that is something that we're going to explore and understand better. The difference between pro sports and college sports is you have multiple programs, and in pro sports you're dealing with one team and you're setting up a model with one team that you're having to navigate. In college sports, you've got a handful of different teams that are participating in the rev share environment where the GM model becomes essential as it relates to player evaluation, and specifically it's more player evaluation in the pro model. And so I would just answer to say I like the personnel that we have currently that are doing that for our various teams. As far as what does that look like moving forward, I think there's an evolution for college sports as a whole, but I think for us too, I think we want to have some ways that we approach that that we feel are synonymous with our institution and what fits us best, while also giving our coaches latitude to have the ability to help dictate and speak into structure. So I would just tell you it's a further point for analysis, something I spent a lot of time on, read and seeing what other people are doing, studying. To say this is exactly the way that we'll do it moving forward, I would say it's premature for me to give you that prescription.
All right, and then Scott Drew's basketball program, it's been such a huge part of Baylor's identity. You got a commissioner in the Big 12 who loves basketball and really leans into it. And I'll be kind of curious to see what you think of Brett Yormark and because y'all both, again, he came from a outside, and he's really changed things up and probably done some amazing things for the conference. But just sticking with the Baylor basketball program, first as a fan, and now you're running athletics. The program has slipped over the last 2 years, and while that was fun the other night against Oklahoma State, I do not know if this is a tournament team, and obviously the standard is so high that's not something anybody's used to. What is your assessment of kind of what's gone on these last 2 years as we've seen this huge change? And obviously Baylor, you talked the other day recently about turning over every rock. Scott's doing that, right? Bringing in James Najee. I saw the story yesterday, and I heard you talking about him the other day. He's a really tremendous young guy. He's probably been thrown into an impossible situation because it's like, everybody's mad at him, and this guy barely has played recently, and so it's just he's in a strange spot. But all that to say, where are you with the basketball program right now? And this has to be twofold. Does more money have to be pumped in, or do we have to kind of reevaluate some of that evaluation process? Because I would say last year they missed huge on a Duke guard. This year's kind of iffy on some players. They don't really have a point guard. Where are you with that program? Because obviously that's something that needs to stay really, really good at Baylor.
Yeah, expectations are high. And don't mistake Scott's, his kindness and his smile for a lack of competitive fire. Because again, kind of talking back to what we spoke about football, nobody's grinding more on himself in that program right now than Coach Drew. I think he'll be the first to acknowledge, roster construction has been a challenge with this one for some variables that he did not have control over. Whether it be losing a player they had built the roster around late in the portal, that happened late, so it really limited the time for him to make up for that. He's dealt with some injuries. Now that mid-season addition, I agree with you, James is a great kid, but he hadn't played really 7 months of up and down basketball, so there's an adjustment there that exists for him. And yeah, I think Scott will be the first to acknowledge it's a great group of guys, and there's some amazing talent over there. But he'd be the first to tell you from a roster construction standpoint, there's a lot of things that he would potentially have done differently had he known what he does today. And I can say, as far as like what are the solutions, I think it's both. I think it's going to take that I've given our department. We need to do all we can to drive revenue and to give him the opportunity to go get the best student athletes he can. But we also need to. We got to deliver on the guys. We've got to have really good player evaluations and make sure that the rev share and the money that's spent goes to players who are impactful, because it is difficult to go back to people who are supporting the program or companies that are supporting our program through external NIL opportunities and ask them to continue to do so, but they don't see a return on their investment, and they want to see the performance that they think is attributable to that particular player. That's the new era that we live in. In the previous world, there was a little more grace applied when all these guys are on scholarship and somebody comes with a lot of hype and they disappoint. Well, maybe the hype wasn't justified. Now with the way that we're set up and the student athlete benefits that are provided, expectations are higher. And so when someone doesn't meet expectations, there's understandably a greater level, I think, of candor and honesty as far as the ability to get what you need out of them. And that's why I think you see a lot of more transition, because if someone's not delivering, you got to move quick. And so I just say that, listen, I'm optimistic about this team. I think, they needed a little change of scenery. They played two incredibly tough teams in Iowa State and Houston, and Oklahoma State has been a good place for us of late to win. And we got exactly what we need there. I'm excited about the game tonight. I'll be up there. And I think that this team's playing with some momentum and some energy. And, I think they'll play free and loose and kind of with nothing to lose tonight. You win that game, and all of a sudden you've got some momentum coming back. But Scott knows the adjustment he's got to make, and Scott knows the roster construction challenges that he's got to address moving forward. And I would just say I don't think it's a wise bet to bet against Scott Drew. Like I think he knows his what fits here and how to adjust. And the guy has constantly shown his ability to pivot and to take a team. He's got teams that have struggled before that have started really poorly in conference, and he's completely changed the way that they played the game and flipped them into a Sweet 16 team. I remember that team very well that I think started 2-6 in conference, and he flipped it into a Sweet 16 team. So he'll make the adjustments he can within the season, and he'll get to work as soon as the season's over and take his learnings for these last few years, and I think make adjustments. And I think he's in a good spot with clarity as far as what we've got to do moving forward, and that involves further support from my seat as well too.
Doug, I appreciate it. I could talk all day with you, and it probably feels like that to you that we already have. But and I have forgiven you, by the way, for going dark on me. I think that should have, when I could not reach you, I think that should have told me that's who they were zeroing in on me, but zeroing in on. So anyway, I was very excited, though. I'm kidding about that. There's something about somebody with institutional knowledge, and not that you have to be a Baylor person to serve Baylor. I'm not like that, but I think that part of it has galvanized the fan base, because it's the whole, hey, he's one of us kind of thing. And so that's a pretty cool thing. And next time, by the way, I'll bring up, I hated not to say anything about it, but the new naming rights in baseball, that's a really nice accomplishment. And I know that comes from relationships that you built over the years in one of your previous gigs, and baseball needs to baseball's been great at Baylor in the past, and hopefully there's path to getting it back there. And last year, what I found out from watching Houston, who was not that great, but they did have like the greatest closer, like in the Big 12. And I thought Baylor actually had a great closer. That wasn't a problem. Yeah. But anyway, I think baseball is going to be. It's just because in the SEC and other places, it's actually becoming a revenue sport. So I don't know if we'll be able to look at it like that. But anyway, congrats on all of that.
Well, thank you. The summary statement to what you just said there is we need to make the next time happen soon. And I'll promise you a regular access and be available. Not too much. I know people don't want to hear me too much. They want show me, don't tell me. But I will tell you personally, I hate not responding. It's one of my mandates is always be responsive, even if the news isn't good. So apologies for being a little dark for a period of time because that's not my normal mode of operandi. But appreciate the coverage and super grateful for this opportunity. I love our days ahead. I really think that there's a lot of momentum, and we got to fix some stuff. And I understand our fans being frustrated. We haven't won enough of late, fact. But we'll get that going and enjoy this time with you, and really look forward to getting more in the future.
All right, that table back there over your right shoulder. That's where I'd like to do that next interview.
Let's go. I don't know why. Are you up in Dallas right now? Why don't you come on? Let's come down. We'll finish it up this afternoon.
Fit in part 2.
Let's go. You're welcome anytime. We'll do it.
Your staff's they're giving me they don't want that. Doug, thank you, man. It's congratulations. Very exciting time. I appreciate you being with me.
Fun to visit with you, bud. Appreciate it.
There he goes. Doug McNamee, Baylor Vice President, Director of Intercollegiate Athletics on the Matt Mosley Show. And the Mosley Show, boy, it's been exciting today. We've had portal talk with Chris Hummer. We've had the new athletic director at Baylor. Appreciate Zach for making this work and doing a great job producing for me this morning, really throughout the day. But tremendous to get Doug McNamee. Lots of things there that he talked about, and some things certainly we'll be reacting to in the coming days. Tremendous opportunity, and appreciative of Baylor and Brent Ingram, everybody over there for helping put that together. It is the Mosley Show. We appreciate it. That is all we have for this week. Monday at 1:00. Please be with us because it'll be the day of the national championship game, and then we'll be reacting to divisional playoff weekend in the NFL. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.
When you strive for greatness, you have a target on your back. And when it comes to finances, we're all targets for scammers. With the right game plan, you can protect yourself. Don't get faked by fraud.
Here's a tip. No reputable company or government agency will ever ask you to pay them with gift cards, Bitcoin, or a person-to-person payment app. Scammers use these options because the money can't be traced. Just don't do it.
This message is brought to you by Central National Bank.
If you want the best for your body, you want Ascension Providence, the largest sports and orthopedics group in Central Texas. Using innovative and cutting-edge technology, we're able to understand your body better than ever, delivering treatment with precision. And with our fellowship-trained and board-certified doctors, you'll receive excellent care. Work with a team dedicated to your health, wellness, and safety.
So you can perform.
At your best.
Ascension Providence, caring for Texas families for over 120 years.
Bubble wasn't here. I don't know what people would be doing, like making PowerPoints or something. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
At Covers & All, we've revolutionized protective solutions with cutting-edge, customizable covers, tarps, and curtains. We deliver premier protection at affordable prices and express shipping. Visit coversandall.com today for the perfect fit, guaranteed to last.
Better sleep, inspired by nature. Your back, hips, and shoulders will fall into perfect alignment in any position, meaning that you get deeper, more comfortable rest. Visit ecoterrabeds.com.
Cleanse your body of accumulated toxins and embark on your wellness journey at your own pace. At Global Healing, we provide premium supplements to help your body heal naturally. Start your healing journey today at globalhealing.com and organichemp.com.
Relax with Hemp Delicious. Organically grown hemp, massively blended with delicious organic herbs, responsibly sourced for their holistic benefits. Each sip offers calming, antioxidant-rich wellness. Brewed just for you. Sip the calm with Hemp Delicious.
Is your Mac running slow? Mac Booster 8 is your all-in-one solution to clean up 20 types of junk files. Get your Mac running like new again with Mac Booster 8. Visit macboost.net today.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
At Mapiful, we believe in celebrating your journey. Our unique personalized products are designed to boost your confidence. From custom home decor to meaningful gifts, we help you cherish the memories that make you who you are. Visit mapiful.com and start celebrating your story today.